Yeah. Okay. So today we'll be talking about the levels of software testing. So what are the different levels that we have as part of software testing? Okay. So here we have like different stages. You can say level 1, 2, 3, and 4. The unit testing is like first level. Next is like integration testing. Then next system testing and acceptance testing. And we'll deep dive into that and try to understand what are the different levels that we have. Okay. Unit testing is the first thing that we do is like checks if software components are fulfilling functionalities or not. So what exactly we do is like whenever we go with any set of testings, so we should have some entry and exit criteria, exit criteria as we discussed yesterday. Okay, so when I'm considering this particularly, this is a software. Okay, so within this we can see a lot of components. Components are kind of like modules that we have here. So let us take this is login module, and this is like some page module, homepage module. Then after we have some admin admin module. Okay, so likewise, these components will be designed like this. Okay, so I'm just giving a grave idea about it. So what is component and also let us consider these are like components. Okay, so let us take this is C1 component. Okay, component 1, component 2, component 3, component 4. Then we have component 5, component 6, and component 7 like this. Okay. Whenever we talk about like unit testing would be generally done by the developers. So developers, what they do is like they are going to consider the components. See, for example, in the developer, like let us take the developers dev 1 is working on, the developer 1 is working on component 1. Okay. So dev 2 is working on the component 2. Okay. So 2. And dev 3 is working on component 3. Okay. So likewise, you can see that vice versa, everything like the other people also working on it. So now developer 1 is working on some login page. Okay. So he's working on this login page and he has got some functionalities that he has to fulfill. Okay. So he has to design develop. So in this case, what he's going to do is like he's going to consider some features. So we have some login features. So this login features will have like, F1 is like you have to provide some UI. This is kind of like UI. And F2, we have some text fields that should be validated. And F3, we have some validations. Okay, likewise, he's going to divide. That's nothing but he's going to chop down those requirements. Okay, so he's going to make some small pieces of it. So when we consider all of them, this is kind of like a one component. Okay, login component. So now when we say this is like a login component, so this login component, once it is like development is done, developer would be writing some unit test cases. Okay, unit test cases, they are going to use some frameworks for those. Framework can be like, if you are taking Java, so you can say that JUnit, and we have test engine. In case of C#, we are going to use NUnit. Okay. So in other things like, Sonaki, so these are different types of tools that we have to check the coverages and all. So what they do is like they are going to conduct this set of testing. So when we consider this is like unit testing, like you can when we say that in consideration of unit testing, we can say that component is designed and developed by the developer, and this developer would be taking care of testing it. Okay. So once he finds some, it's kind of like doing his own analysis, like testing his own work. So once we finish it, so what it does is like it's going to he's going to just test it and say that everything is working accordingly as per the requirements. Okay. So based on his test cases, like what are test cases he has written, so those test cases will be executed, and he's going to give the status of this once the testing is done. So this is called a component testing. So what is component testing? A component tested in isolation. Component tested in isolation. So this is called component testing. Okay. So let's get back to the next level of testing. What we have is like checks the data flow from one module to other module. So this is like little advanced. So what we do is like here, when we say that integration testing, okay, so it's like integration testing. Now, okay, developer one has tested this component and he said that C1 is working fine and C2 is also working fine, C3 is also working fine. Now, what we have to do is like as part of testing. So here comes the tester actually, okay. So tester. So what he does is like he's going to integrate the component, okay. So integrate component, integrate components, and this component should be tested in integration. Okay. So now it will be combined. So how do we combine this? So let us take like this is a login page and this is the home page. So we are going to integrate these two. Okay. So likewise, we are going to integrate these two. Okay. So this would be an integration with other modules. Okay. So likewise, we are going to integrate. So you see, so this is nothing but say this is like integration I1, I2 or I3. So now C1 will be interacting with C2, C2 will be interacting with C3, C3 will be interacting with C4. So likewise, what it does like we have to test the integration. Okay. So integration would be like simple example. When we take the integration testing, I'll just open a web page. What is that functionality I have to check is like I need to open this login, open this page. So HRM page. I'm just inserting some data, like data, like username and password, and clicking on submit. Okay. So login page is designed by the developer one, and this dashboard page is designed by the other developer. So here you can see what are the components what we have in this dashboard. You can say time at work actions. When I click on something like this, so it is integrated. It is calling. It's nothing but it's placing request to the server to render some page. So punch out details. I can see timesheets and all. Okay. So it's nothing but we are doing some integration. Now we are testing the application, combining the components. Okay. So this is how we'll be considering the integration components. Now system testing. System testing is like, as you see that integration testing, what we did is like we are integrating with the modules. Okay, so we are integrating with the modules and we are trying to validate those things. Okay, so how these components are working, like how the components are working in integration. Let us take, we have something kind of like when we say there are some other things. Okay, so there is a server. Okay, so this is, for example, this is a server. Okay, so here we have some database. Okay, so now the integration is fine, like C1 is interacting with C2 and C2 is interacting with C3. But there are some things that we have to interact with the server. So whenever I click on login, so what it does is like it's going to go and hit the server, and this server will be rendering the details from the database. Okay, so and vice versa, this data is again given back to the server like response, and this would be just given response to this. So here the navigation will be done from C1 to C2. Okay, likewise it will be interacting C1 to C2, C2 through C2 to C3, like 3 to 4, and so all these things are nothing but we are placing request to the server, and server is rendering data from the database, and it is giving the request response back to the server, and this response is given back to the client. Okay, so this is nothing but three-tier architecture. You can see client, and there is the business layer, and there is a database layer. Okay, so here we have like presentation, middle layer, and other one is like backend. So this is nothing but three-tier architecture: client, server, and the database. So we are interacting like, we have some business models, we can call it still, but the thing is like a few things will be integrated with the databases, and servers will be residing somewhere. So not only one server will be working, we see a lot of servers would be working parallelly. Okay, so nowadays we have like APIs, application programming interfaces, which are like, kind of a piece of code written to interact with software to software. Okay, so this is how this would be integrated, and this is called a system testing. So integration testing is like integrating with the components, whether this components is working properly or not in the integration, in terms of integration. But system testing is like evaluating the functionality. Okay, so and non-functional aspects also. Sometimes we see that when we are talking about system testing, functional and non-functional. Functional is like the business requirements. Okay. So whether we are meeting the business requirement, non-functional attributes are like what is the performance of that particular request and how much load the server is taking, and do we have any security concerns, or how the application is built on for the usability and compatibility, scalability. Okay. So scalability, in terms of scalability, when you take certain applications, those applications should have like scalability. I mean, like we can increase we can increase number of users on that. Okay. So number of systems or number of users on it, on the application, so that the applications can be accessed with number of users. So that's nothing but scalable. So you can take the examples like way back in, I think now it is not there in colleges, but when we used to go for the computer labs, there we used to have some LAN and WAN network. So this is like, kind of the network is shared across different machines. Okay. So hub, that is nothing but a hub. So it can only accommodate 10 to 12 people, like, they can provide access, and the bandwidth of this network can be available for 10 to 12 people. If we increase that, then there could be like kind of like, delay in the responses from the server, or kind of like network bandwidth is reduced. So these are the few things when we consider it as like a part of like, when we say non-functionals. Okay. So scalability, in terms of scalability. We'll discuss about like what is functional and non-functional in detail. But the thing is like we should know these are the different levels that we have as part of our testing. So next is like finally, so we talked about system testing. So system, in simple terms, we can say system testing is here testers would be involved, and system testing is combination of combining, as I say, combining components of components. Okay. So components of components. Let us take like C1, C2, C3. So I'm trying to do some end-to-end testing. That's nothing but I want to click on login, login, like in a login page. Then I enter the username, password, then go to the home page and get some details of the employee. Then add some, update some details, and then log out of the application. So this is nothing but kind of end-to-end integration testing. We are doing integration as well as like system testing. System testing is like we are integrating components of components. Okay, we are integrating components of components. Integration testing could be like, C1, C2, C3 is like this is 3 components, and we are calling it as like a component of components. And after that, if we are combining C5, C6, and C7, so these are the components which are considered as like one components. Okay, components of components. So now when we integrate it, now it's kind of like C1, C2, C3 is integrating with C5, C6, and C7. Okay, so this is nothing but components of components. Okay, so you have any questions, guys?
Hi, Srikant. How we will in component interact? How we will do integrate?
So this component integration, see, the thing is like it's kind of virtual actually. Okay, so the developer would say that no, we are ready. Okay, so we are ready with the admin page. Okay, so let me log out this. Now developer would say that we are ready with the login page and admin page. So you can test it. So what we do? So here we are going to give username and password, valid username and password, click on it and go to admin page. Now we start testing it. Now there is the integration which is in place, right? Component login page is interacting properly with the admin. When I click on admin, I don't get any error here, and I can able to see that this page is properly loaded. And I'm going to check for something like admin search. I'm getting the admin details here. So when I click on edit, I'm able to edit the details here. You can see employee name. So let me take it as like, okay, no records, invalid name. So it says invalid name. This is mandatory details like editing the user. So you should have the details which is already loaded in the application. Okay, let me cancel it. See what I'm trying to do is like just I'm integrating with, now I'm just checking the integration. Okay, so integration in between the login page and the admin page. Now I'm able to integrate this. This is fine. But next part is like, see, now I'm doing the system testing. So what I'm doing is like, I'm searching for some details here. So it's going to make a call to the server. Okay. So when I say, see, this like client level validation is done here. So it is like checking whether these details are available in the, at the client level. That's nothing but a few things which will be done at the client level also. We have two things. One is client validations, another is like server validations. So if you are trying to render some information from the database, so if you are searching for some employee, so what it does is like, it's going to make a call to the server and this details would be rendered from the database. Okay, let's see some, I'll show you something. So it says like it's not available. Let me just check with Paul Collins, and I'm clicking save. See what is happening here. You can see the requests are sent to the server. Okay, so this is nothing but, see, it's a get method and it's like response header. You can see there is some information which is given as a response. So request headers, these are the requests. So what is that I was requesting? So I'm requesting something data. Okay, so when you go here, okay, we already got this information, right? So it is showing up. These are the details. Let me just click on edit. So go to the network and you can see. So what is happening here? So these are the requests which are shared, which are sent to the server. Okay. So you can see what is that request. Those requests are formed as part of like APIs. Okay. So internally, these things will be done when we do the system testing. System testings are nothing but, so we are integrating with module to module. Okay. So we are integrating with module to module, and these modules will be considered as like one component. And again, we are going to consider those components are like components of components. Okay. So next is like acceptance testing. So this is
sir, does integration testing and system testing, what is the difference between them actually?
Yeah, we'll discuss about regression testing and system testing. This is levels of testing, that is types of testing. Okay, so these are different levels and those are different types.
I'm not talking about regression. Actually, I was talking about difference between the integration and system tester.
Yes, system testing. See, integration testing is like we are considering, see, baselines. Let us take like baseline. When I call about like integration testing, let me consider it as like a baseline. Okay, baseline 0. So these things are detailedly there in the types of testing I want to discuss over there. But yeah, I'll discuss here. Let's take like I want to have this baseline 0 defined here. So now what I'm doing is like I'm considering this as like a baseline 0. Then I'm going to consider baseline grouping. I meant to say that this is kind of like a grouping C4. So what we do is like generally in integration testing, we have two types of things. Okay. So one is top down, another one is like bottom up. Top down approaches is like we are going to integrate few components which are available, like, the parent child relationship. So we are integrating parents with the child. Okay. We are coming from top to down. So in case of like bottom up approach is like we are going from child to the parent. Okay. So here in case of baselines integration testing, we are going to take the components like developer 1 said, yeah, I'm done with the C1. Developer 2 says I'm done with the C2, and developer 3 says I'm done with the C3. Okay. Likewise, developer 4 says I'm done with the C4. So now what we do is like we don't test whole at a time. Okay. We don't test whole at a time as a system. What we do is like we want to integrate few things. Like let us take, first I want to integrate the login page with the dashboard. Okay. So I'm just closing it. See, I logged into the application. I'm just integrating. Okay, C1, and let's take C1 as like login page and C2 is like dashboard. Okay. Now we are going to the dashboard, and when I click on something here, so it is showing the details about like, dashboard, and it is, this dashboard is integrated with the time. Okay. So let me consider this is login is C1 and dashboard is C2. Now I'm going to validate everything here. Okay, everything is properly defined or not. I'm able to fetch the details properly or not. Okay, so this is baseline 0. So now baseline 1. So what is baseline 1? Dashboard to some integration with the time. Okay, when I click on this time, Okay, now I'm able to navigate from dashboard to the time. Okay, dashboard to the time. This is one module and this is one module. Okay, login is one module. Login is going to the dashboard. Now I'm from dashboard to the time I'm going to navigate. So this is nothing but integration testing. Okay. So now what is system testing? System testing is like, now you see employee name, I'm typing something as like Paul. Okay, it is getting data. This is nothing but I'm getting data from the server. When I click on this, it's going to show you the details about this particular employee. Okay, so click on view. Now go to the network. So let me do refresh again, Control R. I can see what it is doing. It is nothing but this is system testing. System testing is like it is checking for the integration with the other components. This is nothing but this component is like, it is connecting with the business layer, and business layer is like doing some set of calculations, nothing but it's going to execute some code and it's going to fetch some query. Like, so it's going to like, execute some stored procedures or send the query to the database, and database would be giving the details. So it says like no records found. Okay, no records found. So for this, a timesheet of Paul Collins, no records found for this. Okay, so what I'm going to do is like, I'll go back. See what it is doing now. It is making some calls. This is nothing but system intelligence. Okay, so I'll say
Okay.
Paul Collins required view. Let's see that. Well, let's try for the same record again. Okay, there is no record information, like timesheets is not filled by the Collins in this time period. So no records found. This is nothing but it is system testing. Okay, system testing. So we are integrating all the modules at a time. Like again, like as I said, like components of components and testing it. So integration testing is like only components between the components. Okay, are you clear with this?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Next is like acceptance testing, checking the requirement of a specific specifications or contract are met as per its delivery. As per its delivery. Okay. So it's very simple. Like when we are trying to accept something, what we do is like we are going to do a general checks, right? So if you are going to buy a product, then what do you do? So you don't open it, right? For example, if you are buying a bike, what do you do? So you are going to generally check it, like whether it is able to turn on the machine and able to switch shift the gates, and it takes the speed and everything. That's nothing but it's kind of like acceptance testing. You want to check at the final test. So this is nothing but we want to accept this application and we want to test it with the real-time data. So that is the acceptance testing. So when we look into the deep, so you can have this unit testing. So whatever we have discussed is like unit testing is small testable portions of system or application which can be compiled, like loaded and executed. This kind of testing helps to test each module separately. Okay, so this is in isolation. So integration testing means combining, for example, in this test phase, different software modules are combined and tested as a group to make sure that integrated system is ready for system testing. Okay, so next is like, integration testing. You can see there is another part, checks the data flow from one module to the other module. This kind of testing is performed by the testers. So integration testing is done by the testers and unit testing is basically done by the developers. So system testing is like, as we discussed, like we want to check both functional and non-functional. We saw that like, we are placing some request and we want to check like what is the time it has taken and whether we are able to navigate to the other pages properly, and are we going to have the connection properly with the server and rendering the data from the databases. So this is system testing. So next is like, finally we have acceptance testing. So this testing is to conduct is a test conducted to find the requirements of a specifications or contract are met as per its schedule. So however, what we do is like, if you want to accept something, just you want to check your requirements. Okay, so if that requirement is met, then we say that this is accepted and we can use that application. Okay, so you can see that customers will be involved. So who are the customers? So those who have given the requirement, those are the customers. Okay. So few key points that you have to remember is like levels of software testing is process where every unit or components of software system is tested. Okay. So every unit or component of the software system is tested. And primary goal of system testing is to evaluate the system compliance with the specified needs. Okay, so we have like compliance, and also compliance are nothing but set of rules, protocols, what we say. Okay, so strategies, set of rules or protocols. These protocols we have to follow when we are testing the application. And in software engineering, four main levels of testing are unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. So these are the four levels that you have to remember. Okay, so yeah. So with this, like we have completed like what are the levels of testing, and so we'll be looking into what are the types of software testing. So do you have any questions for me, guys? You're clear with this, right? What are different levels of testing?
Yes, sir.
Just give me a second, guys. I'll be back in a second. Yeah, sorry guys, I'm back. I have a kid at home, so that is a problem to manage him. Okay, yeah. So we'll kickstart with this types of software testing. So there's the difference that we have to understand, like what is levels of testing and what is types of software testing. Okay, so software testing, we have different types of software testing. You can say white box, black box, and gray box. And within that white box, we have functional and non-functional. And within that functional testing, we have unit testing, integration testing, system testing. Within that integration testing, we have like two things. One is like incremental testing, non-incremental. Within that incremental, we have top down and bottom up. So don't worry about this. We have a clear graph and everything is like drafted properly in this screenshots, PPTs. And we have a lot of screenshots in it. So you can just look into this and you can understand what are the different types of testings that we have. Okay. And we'll discuss about like what are the different techniques that we are going to use as part of like designing the test cases with the help of black box design techniques. Okay. So first we'll try to understand what types of software testing. So various types of software testing which can be used at time of the software development life cycle. So you can see that we have STLC, which is a subset of SDLC, right? So in that we are going to use this different types of testing. So software testing is a process of analyzing an application functionality as per the customer prerequisites. Okay, so this we already know about it. And to ensure that our software is bug-free or stable, we must perform the various types of software testings because testing And this next slide. Okay. So here you can see software types of software testing. So one is manual testing, another is like automation testing. So manual testing, so this we can consider it as like complete testing, not manual and automation. Still we can in automation also we can perform functional testing, but few things that are not considered as part of automation. So that is why we have categorized in two modules, like two phases. One phase is like manual testing, another one is like automation testing. In manual testing, we can see that white box testing, black box, and gray box. In black box, we have two types: functional, non-functional. In functional, we have three types like unit testing, integration testing, system testing. That's what we have discussed, right? So these are like levels, and we can call them as like functional testings. In functional, again, we have three. In that three, we can say integration testing has like two components in it. One is incremental testing, non-incremental testing. In this incremental testing, we have top-down and bottom-up. And when we consider non-functional, we'll talk less about non-functional because non-functional is like kind of attribute where we don't consider much in like manual testing. So most of the times if we have any specific requirements, mostly we have like performance testing and security testing. These are the two components generally we are going to consider. We use some tools to analyze or deriving the requirements based on the customer, and we are going to use these tools for we conduct some POCs and we'll try to find out what is the performance or how does it exactly measure the security and all. That only like few times we are going to do the non-functional testing. Okay, not based on the requirements we are going to do it. So classifications of software testing, here you can see white box testing, black box testing. So white box testing is like purely a developer would be doing it. Like as I discussed yesterday, it's like sometimes testers will be doing, if they have technical skills and coding skills, they can pick up this white box testing and they can perform the testing. So black box testing is like completely a testers would be doing. So they are going to write the test cases, execute them, report the defects, and verify the fixes. All these things will be done as part of like black box testing. So here, as I discussed, like white box testing, here you can see this is application code and test case inputs and test case outputs. So everything is like kind of we have like branches, code coverages, and how exactly this code is behaving. And we see that any dead codes are there. So we use some set of tools in this to identify the coverages as well as like dead codes. If any dead code is there, then that will be analyzed. So to give a sample about it, just I want to show you like a sample example here. So how this white box testing would be done. Let me write. So this is IDE, Eclipse IDE. So here I'm going to write a small snippet, code snippet. You can understand it, okay? Verifying age of a person for loan, okay? So just I want to verify whether that person is eligible for the loan or not, okay? So here I've created a class, okay? So this is Java class. So I have created a class int age. I'm taking something called a scanner class. So don't worry about what I'm writing here. We'll discuss everything in detail. System.in. Please enter your age.
Second, you are going to explain JUnit also, right?
Sorry?
JUnit.
JUnit we don't use. TestNG I'm going to use. That JUnit is like it's very simple that only we have few components, a few annotations in it. But advanced version is like TestNG. We'll be looking into every aspect of TestNG.
Okay.
So here I'm just writing a simple snippet to check the coverages and all. Not eligible. See, this tool is smart enough. So what it does is like, if I say, this system system.exit, I'm going to write some of
You put on void now method, so there is no return type.
yeah, generally I'm just writing it. Okay, it is allowed, like we can write into return and all. So just what I'm trying to do is like I have written some code here. Okay, so let me execute this and try to get the input. Not eligible. But what is the point of, see here, if you see this, see when this program would be terminated. So this is the condition, right? If this condition is met, the program will be terminated here itself. What is the point of writing this code? So am I getting some end of program here? See, are we getting anything here? So this is like code is, it's not used, right? It's not used anywhere. So this is kind of like, it's going to check the code coverages, whether the statements, all the statements are executed. And if you have like, this means statements are given here. So if any dead code, this is nothing but a dead code. So you can write number of times, but what is the use of it? See, now you got some set of error. What is that error? See, unreachable code. Unreachable code, because here itself it's returning, right? So the program will be terminated in certain cases. Like for example, if you want to do some set of statement here, so let me check. End of program. Program at line number, some line I'm going to give line number 18. Okay, so now when I try to execute it, it's going to say that there is an error, but still if you want to proceed, you can proceed. See, unresolved compilation problem, because we have this issue here. So what it says, like this is a dead code, unreachable. Okay, unreachable code. So how do I find out? So this is not UI, right? So this is not UI. This is purely a code based. So if I try to write this set of like code in the application, so what happens now? You'll see that a lot of issues will be there. So how this can be identified? So with the help of unit testing. So that's nothing but in the white box testing, they are going to find out. Okay, this is a line that I have written, or these are the statements that I have written which are useless, which will not be reached out. So this is like unreachable code. Okay, so this is like one other tool, IDE, which will help you to identify the dead codes. If you have written something, in that case, it will go and identify, okay, this code will not be reached anytime. But in certain cases, like you can see here, so still this is an unreachable code. Okay, so when you say end of program will never come, you say something 29, end of program will never come here. So this I'm talking about this line, because the system would be execute, like if it go and try to execute this particular statement, it will be terminated here itself. Okay, but if I write here, see what is happening now? End of program. When the program is terminated, here it is terminated. But what is the dead code here? So these are like dead code. If you write or if you don't write, this will be terminated here itself. Okay, program will be terminated here itself. Okay, so these are the dead code section. How do you find out this dead code? With help of like code coverages. Okay, so there are tools that will be helping us. So those tools are like fan in, fan out, LCJCR. These are the 5 tools that we are going to use for the code coverages. So this will help you to identify the dead codes. Okay, so let's go back to this. So here it says like in white box testing, the developer will inspect every line of the code before handing it to the testing team or the concerned test engineers. Sometimes they write some code and if, for example, if some cases are branching or missing, or if any conditions are missing, in that case, it's going to throw some set of exceptions. Okay. So we'll talk about those things a little later. Whenever it is, if I find any certain cases, I'm going to show you how do we throw these exceptions and what are the date codes that it's going to identify. Okay? Now it's like you can say that the developer will execute the complete white box testing for the particular software and send the specific application to the testing team. So his job is to ensure that every line of code is working, and he has to compile it, debug it, and check it that all the coverages are done properly and it is working as expected. Okay. The purpose of implementing white box testing is to emphasize the flow of inputs. So you can see that there are like if else conditions. If age is less than 18, so he is not eligible for loan. If he is greater than or equal to 18, then he is eligible for the loan. Okay, these are certain conditions that he has to evaluate. Okay, he has to see that what is the flow of it. If condition, true cases and false cases, and some cases you can see that invalid cases also we have to match. I mean, like we have to test for the matching of the requirements. Okay, so this is like white box testing. So this is purely done by the developers. Next, we have like a black box testing. So this is like another type of testing that test engineers will analyze the software against requirements, identifying debug defects, or finding out the bugs and sending it back to the development team. So here, what we do is like we have written these test cases and we have written the test scenarios, and on top of it, we have written the test cases, identify the priority test cases. We are going to execute those test cases against the application. So once we find that it's not working as expected, we are going to report them as like a defect. Okay. So we'll be reporting them, and our job is to get it fixed. And again, we have to do the testing. That is nothing but retesting. So all these things, like, it's like self-explanatory what we have here in terms of like black box testing is given. So we'll be executing our test case. That is nothing but inputs. We'll give some set of test data that we have prepared as part of our documentation. So we'll be documenting it, and those documents will be executed against the application. So we'll get the test output. So desired output is like it has to work as expected. If it is not working as expected, then we are going to report it as like a defect. So here again, we have types of black box testing. As we discussed, like we have two types of black box testing. One is functional testing, another is like non-functional testing. Functional testing, it will check for the requirements, whether those requirements are matching with the application or not. And non-functional testing is like how does those requirements, like, how does the application impacts on this requirement. For example, if we are just, logging into the application and login would take more than 10 minutes or 20 minutes of time, then it's not reliable. Okay. That application is not reliable. So we have to make the, we have to do the performance tuning. So this all things will be done during the non-functional testing. So you can see functional testing, the test engineer will check all the components systematically against requirement specification is known as functional testing. Okay. So we'll look into the requirements, assess the quality, and find the defects. In functional testing, all the components are tested by the given value. As we discussed, we have to see each and every requirement is working as per the documentation. And the other thing is like each and every component should be tested, and we have to identify the defects if we have any defects in it. And next one is like functional testing is part of black box testing, as it's emphasizes on application requirement rather than actual code. Okay, so we never bother about like what is the actual code behind, but we have to look into the UI part and the functionality. Okay, so it should work as per the features defined in the requirements. So next you can see types of functional testing. As we discussed, like we have unit testing, integration testing, and system testing. So these are like types of functional testing. And we have levels of testing also, which comprises in a both way, like, we'll say the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, acceptance testing. But this comes under as part of types of functional testing. So there could be some kind of debates, guys. So generally they call it as like, we say it is levels of testing. And sometimes we say that functional types of functional testing. Yes, both are right. Okay, we can consider them as like levels when we talk about the execution of the application, and we can consider them as like a types when we are talking about the functional execution of the application. Okay, functionality, to check the functionality and to match with the requirements. So there are two things. Okay, so we can call them levels and we can call them as like types of functional testing. So as we discussed, like unit testing, what is unit testing? And we saw that, that is which the testing is done on a component. So in isolation, okay? If anything has to be done in isolation and to verify that component is working as expected, then we call it as like a unit testing. So the primary goal of it is to tested by the development team. So integration testing is that we are going to integrate the components and we are going to find out whether that is properly integrated or not. So this integration would be done by the testing team. Okay. So developers would be doing the component testing and testers would be doing the integration testing. The part of testing would start from the integration. The testers part will start from the integration testing. So types of integration testing, here we have incremental testing, non-incremental testing. Okay. So incremental testing, we have like, kind of bottom up and top down approaches. So how do we do that bottom up and top down approaches? That we'll discuss in detail about the incremental testing. So here you can see whenever there is a clear relationship between two modules, we go for incremental integration. Okay. So we say the login page is related to the dashboard. When we have proper login credentials and enter those credentials, click on submit button, then it should go and navigate to the dashboard. Okay, so this is nothing but we are checking the integration between the components. If I let us take, if I want to test only the component, so login is like I'm going to take one login at a time. I'm going to enter some admin name and username and password as like admin123 as part of like HRM application I'm just talking about, and click on submit button. Okay, so there is no integration with the other components, just I'm writing some code. Okay, some code in the sense, now what I'm going to do is like enter some valid username and password. There is a one condition I'm going to write it as like, if username and password matches, throw this message. Okay, login success. And it's like there is no other component to integrate, right? So just I'm writing a piece of code so that it will show me the result. Okay, show me the result. Okay, this validation is done properly. If I enter admin123, the invalid username and invalid password. In that case, what it does is like it will show invalid password, invalid username or something. That is a message I want to get it. When this will be done, so this will be done at the component level. So component level is like I want to just check that, okay, it's accepting the details and I'm getting some set of message. It's not integrating with any of the components, but still I'm getting some set of message. It's kind of like a dummy message that we get. Okay, so that is what we are going to test in component. But incremental integration testing is little different when we compare to the component testing. What it is like, here we are going to have some set of program written. This program, what it is like, it's going to do some set of let us take like it's going to perform some operations. If you say username and password, enter username and password in the login page. So there is a dummy page will be written to you. Okay, so dummy page will be written to you saying that, okay, username and password is valid and this is a dashboard page. It will show some components like, this is not yet developed, but the thing is like to check with the other component, whether it is properly integrating with the other components or not. So that is what we do in the incremental integration testing. So you can see that, here it is clearly written. We take two modules and analyze the data flow between them if they are working fine or not. Okay. So we take some like, just to check for the integration. Just click on the submit button. It should render some page saying that it's a dashboard page. Okay. So if I click on this dashboard page, we have time, some link is given. Time is a link. That is the module it has to navigate. Just click on that time link. So it should navigate to the other page. So just we are checking that navigation is properly done or not. So if these modules are working fine, then we can add one more module and test again. So this is what I was talking. Okay. So now log into dashboard to time to admin. So likewise, it will be integrated. It's kind of like a chaining process. In other words, we can say that incrementally adding up the modules and test the data flow between modules is known as incremental integration testing. Okay. So one after the other, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5. Likewise, we are going to integrate. In this incremental, we have two types. That is nothing but top down. Another one is like bottom up. As we discussed earlier. So top down is like we're coming from the top modules. Let us take, we have top modules like C1, C2, C3, C4. In that case, what we do is like, as we discussed here. So I'm going to show this. See, these are like baselines I'm going to define. Okay. So let me take a new page here. This is one component. Let us check. This is another component. This is another component. Let us check. I'm going to write this as like A, B, C, D, and E. Okay. So what I'm going to do is like, let us take something as like a base component. So which should be interacting with this. Okay. Say double. Now, how do we integrate this component A to A, then A to B, and A to C, and A to D? Okay, so this we are coming from the top. How do we define the baselines now? So we are going to define the baselines here. Baseline 0. In this baseline 0, what I'm going to do is like A plus baseline 1, A plus B. So baseline 2. Okay, grouping them. Now A plus C. B plus D. Okay, so likewise we are going to integrate. Okay, so we are going to integrate. But what are the different advantages here is like we are going to integrate with the models which are not ready yet. Okay, which are not ready yet. So for example, this D component is not ready. Okay, so E components. Let us check this E component is not ready, but I want to integrate it. Okay, but I want to integrate with D. So what I'm going to do is like if this component is not ready, but I want to test the integration between these two components, then I'm going to write a small piece of program that is nothing but a stub. Okay, stub will act like a replacement of the component. Okay, it's a small program. Okay, small program since we are going to use stubs and drivers in the integration. Stub is kind of like a small program which is kind of like a replacement of the actual component. Okay, actual component. So let us take like like if we consider the workaround, let us take like we have this is kind of like a workaround. Okay, workaround. So actual component is not ready yet. Okay, actual component is not ready yet. But what we do is like we are going to do the replacement of it. Okay, at temp fix, you can see that temporary fix. Temporary fix to check this integration is done properly or not. Okay, so this is called top-down approach. Okay, so this is called top-down approach. We are coming from the top. So what is bottom-up approach? Bottom-up approach is like we are going to go from the down. Okay, from the bottom. So we'll be integrating. Let us take like we have some module called Z and we have some module called X and this is called a Y. And I add a few one more component here, which is like some W. So here what I'm going to do is like I'm going to interact with this component, this would be interacting with this component, and this would be interacting with this component, and the components will be moving on the like from bottom to top. Now what we take with the baseline is like baseline would be changed here in case of bottom up approach. So baseline 0 would be like X plus Y, and baseline 1 is like Y plus W, baseline 2 is like some W plus D. Okay, so now if some component is not ready yet, okay, for example, this is a component which says like F component, so this component is not ready yet. So when we are doing the integration from the bottom, if this component is not ready yet, we are going to use a program called driver. Okay, So drivers are generally like kind of like you want to integrate. For example, if you have some application wherein you have to interact with the other applications. Okay. So some other application is like, when you click on enter, so it will go and get the data from the application. So in that case, this application is not ready yet. So it's kind of like, application replacement. So it makes some request to this particular application and it will get some data. Okay. So let me say that access success. Okay. So this is a message I want to check. Okay, just to see that it is integrating with this module. Okay, so it is integrating with this module, but actual process of this module is not ready. But what we are doing is like we are writing some programs. Okay, so stubs are like replacement of the components, integrate the components. So drivers are like kind of applications wherein we have to integrate with them to get the actual data. But the thing is like now they are not ready yet. So what are we doing is like we are going to write some drivers here. So these are the programs actually. Okay, so these are the programs written to get some feedback or else to get the response from that particular components or applications. Okay, so I'll get back to this. You can see in this application, we'll add the modules step by step or incrementally, which has the data flow between them. We must ensure that modules we are adding are child of earlier ones. So that is nothing but the parent and the child relationship. So bottom-up integration is like, you can say bottom-up approach will, we will add the modules incrementally and check the data flow between modules and ensure that the module will are adding in parent of the earlier ones. Okay, parent of the earlier ones. Okay, so this is what we have discussed here, right? So I'll just go here. So this is child and this is parent. Okay. So how we are going is like we are moving from downwards. Is like when we are moving from downwards, it should be like child to parent. And when we are coming from top down is like parent to child. So this is a baseline that we have to create. But don't worry about this. Generally, what we do is like integration testing. We are going to unknowingly we'll be using those baselines. Okay, so nobody would be writing these baselines, but as I see, a lot of test cases would be written in integration. And there is a slight difference between this integration and system testing, system integration testing, what we say. Okay. So what happens in case of system integration testing, like knowingly or unknowingly, we are going to integrate the components and we are going to connect to the servers and get the details from that. So that combines both integration and system integration testing. Okay. But in generic terms, we should understand if you are going for ISTQB certification, these are very important questions. What is top-down approach? What is bottom-up approach? And how do we create the baselines? What are stubs and what are drivers? Okay. So these are the important things when you are going for the certification programs. Okay, so guys, I'll stop it here and tomorrow we'll be discussing the other part of it. So we have a lot of things to discuss. I'll just give a overview of it. We have non-incremental. So this is Big Bang theory. Okay, there are some debates like why can't we go with testing application a whole at a time? Okay, so what are the advantages and what are the disadvantages? I will discuss about it. And what is system testing and non-functional testing. And we have tiles for this. You can see all the non-functional testing. What are non-functional testing? And yeah, few things like retesting and regression testing that I have considered in it. But this is part of our testings actually. I need to just the other part. I need to just update this. I'll make it as like types of testing. Okay, we'll discuss about in detail, guys, what is each and every part of testing here. So we'll see the performance testing, usability, compatibility, automation testing, smoke sanity, and retesting, and how does it exactly impact and what is regression testing. Okay, so how does this regression testing? When do we do the regression testing? There are a lot of things that we are going to discuss. And we have other parts of testing also. What is head of testing, exploratory? We'll discuss them in detail. Okay. So do you have any questions for me?